and welcome to the Hollywood News's Road to GrimmFest. We're obviously here talking about I See the Demon, which is going to be screening at the festival. First question, how is everyone feeling about the selection and the forthcoming screening?
Awesome. I'm
About
feeling
Yeah, I'm
so
excited.
excited.
yes. Yeah, we're just really excited to come out there. It seems like there's a really great lineup. And I've been really impressed with how with the all these different interviews and reviews that we've been getting. In terms of preparedness, this festival has really helped us make a lot of connections to different press outlets and stuff in ways that the other festivals that we've been to haven't done quite as well. So that's been really, really cool.
Mhm. And for those that haven't done their homework, how have you been pitching the film to people?
So I See the Demon is a sci-fi psychological horror. Uh, I've heard some people describe it as a psychedelic psychodrama, which is a fun little alliteration there. But it's a pretty good one because it is a horror film. It's a sci-fi film, but it's also a drama. So it's kind of a genre mashup that has a really strong focus on character. The story is about a young, emotionally vulnerable woman who comes home to a surprise birthday party, played by Alexis, and the night first starts out to be really great. She's surrounded by the people that she loves. She is really happy, but things start seeming a little bit amiss here and there. And when she brings it up to the people around her, they say, "Oh, well, don't worry about it. Everything's fine." But as things get more and more unsettling and more disturbing things start happening, and they still tell her, everything's fine, don't worry about it, then that's when she starts to realize there really is a problem here. And as the night kind of goes on and gets more and more chaotic and traumatic, um, Lucy has to decide who she can trust, what she can trust, what reality she can even believe in. Um, and so it's a good time.
And for you guys as actors, what was it about this story and these characters that made you want to get involved?
Pretty easy for me. I just have been friends with Jacob for a while, and everything he's done has been like the shorts I've worked on him. Anyway, he's done a lot of great stuff, and I was just excited to work with him because I like him, and I think he's a smart guy and makes cool stories.
Thank
That's cute.
you.
When I first got the audition, and Jake and I have talked about this, I had no clue what was going on, like at all. I was like, what is happening? Because it's the scene where they're talking about a character and they're having a dinner, and then Lucy sees something that is really disturbing. And for whatever reason in my head, they were out, like at a restaurant. And so I was like, how does this work? But I was like, okay, well, let's just focus on what is happening and just ignore the other elements, the sci-fi elements of it whatsoever. And so I just tiled into what was happening in the moment for Lucy. And then when I actually got the call back and then got the script and read the script, I was like, oh, this is what's going on. This is amazing. Actually, yes, thank you very much. I would like to do this because originally I was so tired from filming movies back to back to back that I originally did pass on the project, my management, and my management said, no, 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 read the script. And then I read the script and I was like, okay, yes, let's do this. This is very interesting. It's really rich. I really identify with Lucy. I feel for her, and I think this is a really important story to tell.
Because the film does delve into, relationships and trust. Jacob, what was it about, that kind of dynamic that inspired you?
So a lot of different things. Yeah, it's a really personal story in a lot of ways, and I don't think I could work on something that doesn't feel really, really personal to me. Um, and so there's a lot that I don't really want to make publicly, aware, but I can tell one story which was kind of like the genesis of the concept of trust and whether or not you know your friends, which is I had a friend and I thought we were really great friends, and maybe I did something to offend them. I actually don't even know, but one day they just totally ghosted me, never. And I reached out to them and said, hey, you know, what's going on? Like, but they just disappeared completely out of my life. And I, to this day, I've never seen them or talked to them again. And it just made me wonder two things really, which was, how do you even know the people that are around you? You know, you can feel very close to these people and feel like they have your back, but then but they can change on a dime. And then the second thing is, well, what about maybe what did I do if I did do something, but I'm also completely unaware of what I've done? That's kind of a disturbing thing too. And so that kind of, so in a way, I channeled both of those things into the two characters. Like Lucy represents a person who's finding out that she doesn't actually, maybe doesn't know the people around her as well as she thinks she does. And then Ellis, the boyfriend, is kind of more represents the concept of doing things that aren't great, but not really being aware of it, having blind spots into your own character, into your own, you know, moral center and actions and all that sort of stuff. So that was where it came from. And then, you know, wanted to throw sci-fi and horror elements into it because that's fun.
Exactly. I mean, what were, were there any films that you kind of, look to for inspiration or influence, either in the creation or, for yourselves as actors? I mean, I think for me, Coherence and The Invitation both kind of sprang to mind, but were there anything that any of you were looking at in particular when making this?
Yeah, Coherence is, I think, kind of a logistical inspiration point. I think the idea, I'm sure it was influenced by it, but the overall idea was not. I wasn't necessarily thinking Coherence or The Invitation, but it kind of fits into that genre of like dinner party goes to hell. Um, uh, I think a big influence was Silent Hill 2, the video game. Just the idea of having psychological trauma being manifest, uh, being incarnated in strange and bizarre, surreal imagery and creatures. Um, that's something that I've always really loved, and so that was a big inspiration point there. Then stylistically wanted it to have a very grounded and real sort of feel. So the other thing, influence point that I was looking at was actually movies by the Safdie brothers, like Good Time and Uncut Gems, to have a, because that was great. I loved the way they used their camera and the way they have characters talking over each other and all that sort of stuff. So that was a fun way of a fun reference point. That's for
I
me.
watched.
Yeah. Sorry.
Oh no, you're totally fine. I was gonna say I watched Barbarian, Midsummer, and Don't Worry, Darling a lot. I really dissected those films and really wanted to understand what does it look like to be a leading lady in a film where you don't really know what's going on. And because that in and of itself is a challenge. And then to because I read the script every single day. I read I See the Demon every single day. And would read the scenes that we were doing just over and over and over again. So it really was inside of me, but I also wanted to be able to just like let that go and just like be in it. But I also wanted to know what does this do to you afterwards as well. And so I read a lot of interviews with those actresses to see how they felt. If is this a normal this insanity that I'm feeling while we're filming this? Is this a normal feeling? And then felt very at peace when it's like, oh yes, Florence Pugh felt horrible after Midsummer. Great, I'm so happy. I'll deal with this later. And so yeah, those three movies were like I would go home. I mean, we would wrap so late. And I had to do homework because I was in college at the time. So I would go home, do homework, and then also have those movies on the background. But I would also be watching Disney movies as well to go to sleep because I like couldn't sleep in silence. So I would have a Disney movie on. And yeah. Noah, what about you?
I watched a few things that Jacob sent me, including Coherence, again, just for he wanted that tone of kind of like very natural mumblecore-ish kind of tone. As far as and some short stories and stuff that he sent to think about some of the themes that emerge in the film. So I'm not going to go into too much detail about those just because I think it sort of is a bit of a spoiler. And I also don't remember what they were called or anything. But Jacob sent some material, and then other than that, for me it was mostly working with Jacob and talking to Jacob about the things he was thinking about as he wrote, and working with the other cast members to kind of get the vibe, the feel, the energy.
And speaking of other cast members, obviously you have Napoleon Dynamite in this, which I guess, is not really,
Watch
a
that one
sci-fi sort of like
the right
psychological thing. You don't necessarily, link John to something like this. How was he, to work with on this project?
He
John
was
was a lot of
so
fun.
great.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Oh, go ahead.
No, he was so great. We really enjoyed working with him. He was really fun and very funny. And he took it very seriously, but also brought a lot of levity to everything, which was nice. Sorry, go ahead, Jacob.
No, no. Yeah, it was. I like the idea of having comedians in the cast because for the idea of improvised dialogue, so they can make natural reactions and comebacks and make little witty quips here and there. And then I liked the idea of taking John and putting him in a situation that we've really never seen him before ever in. I mean, I think he's done like a few like horror comedies or something like that, but as far as I'm aware, this is his first like serious horror film. And so that was just really exciting, and I think that was part of the reason why it appealed to him. But yeah, he was great. Like Alexis said, he took it very seriously. He was solid the whole way through, but also and he was down to just help out. So yeah, it was great. It was great to have him on board, and he's a lot of fun.
I agree.
And there are aspects of the story that I kind of repeated or reframed as the story progresses. How did you guys kind of work together to go about creating these sequences so that they were still interesting to the audience? So it wasn't, there's time loop stories like, Happy Death Day, by like the second or third time, like, come on, we've seen this bit, we don't need, can we speed through this? But I think in this, the changes between things, much like memories are so subtle. So how did you kind of like work together to, create that so it's still you can watch it as an audience and go, is that I don't is this what happened before? I don't quite remember.
Yeah, so that was the goal was to have things be kind of subtly repeated, um, even though there are some kind of jarring moments. Um, but there was a lot that went into that logistically when we were filming about how and basically between me and the production designer and the cinematographer, we had to kind of come up with language essentially for each cycle, each phase of the film, which had its own challenges, but we had a really great cast or really great crew. We had a great cast too. And then with the cast dealing with um, that was I don't know, for me it wasn't too much of a challenge that I remember. I don't remember stressing out about that too much because it was just great to be able to sit and talk with each character and with each cast member and talk about their motivation for this specific moment, whether or not we'd seen it before. Um, and and it was just an opportunity to really delve into each character and get to know them more and see them through a different lens. So I think that also helps it feel like you're saying something new.
I will also say we filmed a lot of the scenes in the same on the same day because we were in the room. So if we're in the room shooting the dinner scene, we shot all the dinner scenes at the same time. And then same thing for anything that took place in the bedroom, we shot all of those. So then it was actually really easy to turn to each other and go, well, we've done that. Let's turn up the angst, or let's turn this up, or let's focus on this a little bit more. And that was really helpful. And then we did a lot of rehearsals where we would rehearse and rehearse before we actually like we rehearsed the dinner scene. We sat down and did the dialogue and rehearsed it in the living room before we went in and filmed it. That way we could, instead of focusing on stumbling through lines and takes, we could focus on actually already being in it and being ready and just be eating and enjoying, and then the dialogue just naturally falls out. So that was very helpful. I also in my script, because I did read the script every day, I also had like, okay, this is what's happened before that, and you need to keep that in mind when you're going into the scene. You can't think about like everything else doesn't matter anymore. This is what's happening right now, and this is what happened right before, and that's what's going to lead to this. And so that was helpful for me to just have the script was the Bible, which thankfully Jacob's script was incredible. So it made it very, very easy.
Thanks.
I guess this obviously this is it's a sci-fi drama kind of story, but the name I See the Demon, I guess people are gonna potentially be expecting a more traditional horror film. Why did you decide to go with that title?
Yeah, it took us a long time to land on that title. And I think the reason why I ultimately chose that was I like how it talks to each character in the film in different ways. There's Lucy, who's being confronted with her own personal demons and kind of being forced to see her demons. Then other characters, it's kind of up to the audience to kind of determine what they are seeing and whether or not they are seeing it. I think a way you could look at it is kind of which character sees what demon, and do they see a demon? And so yes, it does have there's the kind of more traditional sense of what a demon is, and we're just hoping that through the trailer and through the way we present it, that people will understand that it's still has horror elements to it, but it's not like a spiritual, like satanic sort of demon sort of thing. So anyway, yeah, its titles are tricky, but you can only pick one. So
I also just have to commend the way that you do kind of weave in the sci-fi element. It's so subtle, particularly at the beginning. There's just like a moment, a comment where it's like, oh, well, we maybe not on Earth, or what like it's
yeah.
it's very subtly done. That must have been quite exciting to do it in that way, because I think sometimes when somebody says sci-fi, everybody automatically thinks like Star Wars or all white ship,
Mhm.
but this is very much not that sort of thing.
Yeah, we wanted it to just feel really grounded and believable and like real people in a real setting. And I also very consciously wanted to do a sci-fi that felt completely different. I wanted to do a grungy sci-fi. It's just like the camera is not fixed, the camera's moving, everyone characters are talking over each other. There is tech, but we wanted to create a world where the technology feels pretty different from ours. Like there's a piece of technology that becomes really important, and we actually built it out of a radio from the 40s. So it was just kind of cool to explore, and just I wanted to do something different, which I'm glad that I did. I think the conventional, I guess, business mind would be like, no, you do exactly what people when you just kind of serve a cookie cutter version of whatever genre you're doing, but that's not interesting to me. And so yeah, I just wanted to do something that felt like a version of sci-fi that you've never seen before. And so yeah, it was fun to weave it in. It's just like it is a sci-fi, but it's subtle. And so anyway, it was fun. It was just fun. That element was really, really fun for me to do. Just like create this world and have that be a backstory for the characters, but also uh but not really spell it out for the audience so they can fill in the gaps themselves.
And I guess my final question to everybody, what do you hope that the GrimmFest audience take from watching this film? I mean, obviously, we want them to be entertained, but what do you hope that they kind of take away from this film with them?
I think one of the central themes that I was thinking about is the concept of control at the small level, like the interpersonal level. There are characters who make choices for other characters. There are characters who try to, figure out how to take control in situations where they don't have any control. And then that by the end kind of starts to have a broader implication of societal um, societal concepts of control and who has power over us. And it's not in your face, but I hope that a few people start thinking in those terms. There's a lot of things that you can think about with this film, but that's one that I hope at least one audience member walks away thinking about that question in particular.
And I'd say I was going to say something very similar, but I think just specifically reflecting on your own decisions and how you are trying to control other people, or how you may be making decisions for other people that you shouldn't, that you should allow them to make their own choices and respect their autonomy and things like that. And maybe in ways that are hard to see in yourself, because you're like, well, that's bad for people, but it's okay when I do it because I'm smart, and just be self-reflective on that point.
I think for me, a lot of times when people have trauma, they don't feel like they're worthy of making their own decisions anymore. They tend to seek out people who maybe are a little bit more controlling because that makes them feel really safe. But I would say that you are worthy of digging into your own trauma, working all of that out, and being in healthy relationships, whether they're friendships or romantic. I do think sometimes people feel like because they're not healed, they aren't capable of going through that or living on their own, and they feel like they have to, I don't know, they just feel like they have to keep living in this pain that they're in, and it's not necessary. And it is very possible to grow and to heal, and it's painful, but you also have to like take accountability and take the control back from the other people that you've given it to. And I hope people feel like they can see what Lucy is going through, maybe identify who they are and what they are in their relationships, and begin to grow and to actually thrive as people, instead of feeling like they need to be in some type of relationship with someone who doesn't respect them. Just because someone loves you doesn't mean that they're good for you.
Exactly. But yeah, like I said, the film has got so many layers to it. There's so much to discuss. Best of luck with the screening. I'm sure it's going to play great. And thank you all so much for your time.
Thank you.
Really appreciate it.